Welcome to Drinkin Bros, presented by GhostBed.com.
Yes! Welcome to Drinkin Bros, D'Anthony. Got a fine Monday afternoon here in Austin, Texas. 72 degrees.
Yep.
Beautiful out.
Yeah, I can't wait to get outside again.
You can hardly contain yourself today. It is rare that I see you this excited about the weather and about your surroundings. Mm-hmm. And I'm really, really proud of you today.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Watched Amanda Milius's new movie over the weekend, daughter of John Milius. It was actually your suggestion at home. You, the listeners, were like, hey, man, plot to overthrow the president. It goes into the whole Russiagate thing, everything else. And reached out to her. She got back to us, and I think she's going to do the show on Friday. More importantly, a lot of this movie was about the Russiagate hoax, right? Mm-hmm. And how that came about, and the Steele dossier, and the P tapes, and all that stuff, and kind of how the fake news cycle works once you're able to get a story out and whether or not people care.
Right.
The reason why this has become a big topic now is since the election, people are looking for alternate social media apps other than Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube right now. The one that's been huge over the last week or so has been this Parler.
Right.
And everybody's asked us our thoughts on Parler. We said last week, look, I signed up for Parler. I am currently on Parler. You're welcome to follow me at Ross Patterson. Drinkin Bros is taken. We will work on that if it gets bigger, but I wanted to test it out and see if this was a viable option of switching off of Twitter or whatever. I don't know about you personally, but me, I enjoy Twitter for the news element. Nothing gets you news faster than Twitter.
It is quick, yeah.
If there is a hurricane or a tornado or something in your area, boom, there's somebody that is there, and they're like, hey, this is going on, and this is crazy right now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's true, but I would rather look outside my window and see a tornado coming directly for me than be on Twitter.
Correct. But what some people say is, hey, man, I'm at least giving you a warning or a heads up of like, look out for this. This might be in your area. This might be going on today. The Chris Paul in the NBA just got traded to the Suns. But like, hey, man, somebody else reported that. Boom. It was up and out there into the world before ESPN or somebody else could get a hold of it. Then all of a sudden, hey, here it is on Twitter. Now, my personal vendetta against Twitter is I've seen that social. What's the name of that movie on Netflix? The Social
Dilemma.
Yeah, Social Dilemma. I've seen it. I know they're stacking algorithms to get you to be angry or sad or whatever. Mm-hmm. Therefore, my Twitter algorithm I have hated forever. It is nobody I follow. It was stacked before I had to go in and physically like block people or mute them. I didn't want to because I don't know these fucking people and I wasn't going to follow them anyways, but it was like Alyssa Milano, Barbara Streisand, everybody that you could think of, Deborah Messing, that I would hate in this world. That was my entire feed. Even when I muted them, other people would pop up. One was Ted Lieu. You know that asshole?
Liu?
Lieu is his name. And
the congressman. Yeah.
Correct. And he's built an entire existence off of hatred for the president on Twitter. I should not know who this is. He's not in my district. I didn't vote for him. Therefore, it's crazy that I should even know who this person is. The only reason I know who it is because he pops up in my Twitter feed every single day.
Right.
As soon as I open up my fucking thing. And Twitter knows that I hate these people. And therefore, it's like, God damn it, man. I keep getting bombarded with them. So I went over to Parler. And I switched. I didn't delete my Twitter account because I wanted to see what would happen and what the whole existence is of Parler and how it works and everything else. Here's my honest opinion of Parler. Yes, it is a conservative site, or seemingly bombarded by conservatives who hate the left because the Twitter's become far left. But you're reading different articles from lesser known sources on there.
Right.
So like the Epoch Times, I'd never heard of
Epic.
Oh, is that what? Is that?
Yeah.
Why is it spelled like Epoch?
I don't know, but they refer
It's
to themselves.
EPOCH.
I know how to. Yeah. It's
Okay.
They call themselves Epic Times. I don't know.
Got it. Because the Epoch is a religious figure
right.
for Santa in some cultures. So like I didn't know if it was part of that. So it's just epic times. Maybe they just couldn't get the epic times one, but that's really funny that I fucking beef that.
Maybe. I don't know. I actually don't know what the correct pronunciation of the original word is. So
right.
I'm sure they just made it up.
Either way, I joined Parler, and it is a very new app. I am totally curious in it because I don't know where it's going to go, and I wasn't there for the formation of these other apps like everybody else was. Like I was 10 years late to Facebook, Twitter, all of that stuff, right? So I by the time I got there, they were fully formed, and you knew what they were, including Instagram. Now, Instagram has changed over the years and added basically just stolen other people's shit, like different elements of WhatsApp and stories. And
I mean, why would you recreate the wheel for that? It's basically the same thing. You're just trying to, I mean, the only real difference between any of these things like Parler, Rumble, and the current version is the promise of, if not no censorship, then at least less.
Right.
So it's not, it doesn't, I don't think well, I think we actually know the creators of Parler had no intent of it becoming a right-wing news site.
No, not at all.
Or
No.
whatever you want to call that.
No.
They don't seem to be too upset about it now, since it's gaining so much traction and so many people are giving them fucking millions of dollars for it. Bongino is giving them a lot of money, and
Dan
now
Bongino is in, and now
Rebecca, whatever her name is,
Mercer,
yeah,
she's in. Her father Roberts was the guy behind Cambridge Analytica. That helps at least, because my gripes with Parler were this: like it's spotty and it's crashing. So like I tried to upload a 27-second video to my feed, it crashed.
Right.
They got 11 million. When we were on air last week, it said they got 2 million and 2 million subscribers in like less than 48 hours. Now they're up to 11 million in like less than 4 days. And trying to upload things and links and everything was difficult. They figured out the link part. That was pretty easy because we signed up for Rumble for Drinkin Bros podcast, and I was able to put that link on there just to test it out. And so links work. Adding videos is still difficult, but it's server space.
Well, that's why they're taking money now, by the way.
Right.
So they can buy more rack space, and so they can buy more engineers.
Yes.
To make sure. I mean, scalability with a website like that is the most important thing.
Yeah, and when I was talking to Jared about it last night, Jared was like, the odd thing about it is right now, he goes, the server space is probably owned by Google.
No, it would be
or Amazon.
It would be Amazon Web Services probably. I would, if I had to guess.
Either way, Jeff Bezos owns Amazon. He also owns the Washington Post. It is everything you're trying to get away from, but you still can't get away from it. So I'm not sure what's going to happen with that. I remember during the formation of YouTube, they were running out of server space, and they were in debt like hundreds of millions of dollars because they just physically couldn't keep up with it.
Right.
Eventually, they had to sell to Google. There was no way around it.
Yeah, it looks like Amazon Web Services controls about 33% of that market share. Google is third place, actually, behind Azure, which means blue.
Okay.
And they are at 9%. So Amazon's got about almost 4 times more than Google does. That the reason you can get shit shipped to your house really cheaply is because they don't give a fuck about making money on any of that stuff. They make all their money in web services, all of it.
Really?
You can't make a product and become 100 billionaire. That product doesn't exist. There literally is no product aside from bandwidth that can ever be worth that much money. You can't, if you mined enough gold or diamonds to make that amount of money, you would dilute the market so much that you would never get there. If it was a car or some kind of new fucking technology, maybe in the tech world, but anywhere else other than bandwidth, it's impossible. That's why Bezos was able to lose half his fortune and then make 120% of that up in 8 months. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Because bandwidth costs money.
Yeah.
That's it.
Because, look.
So I guess the point of me saying that is that's why you're seeing people on the right that are very wealthy start to buy into this shit, and it's not going to stop. Like this is the economic fracture that follows the social fracture. So there's going to become two competing economies, the right economy and the left economy.
Right.
It's going to be really interesting to see where all this goes.
Same. And I'm excited about it. So, because the conversation I had with Jared, and I talked to him for a couple hours last night, was about where all of this is going and what we do as a network too, like, media company wise, like, because we started uploading Drinkin Bros podcast to Rumble, gained, Rumble, I think we got like, I don't know, 100 views or whatever in the first hour. Nothing crazy, but, we're trying to introduce people into that world, and we're going to start adding more videos to that. Parler, I gained about 1,000 subscribers on that or whatever. And it's just at Ross Patterson. Somebody else has Drinkin Bros, so I don't know who that is.
It's actually another military podcast.
Oh, really?
I think so, yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So we're going to try this out. My best advice to you, I guess, if you're wanting the same thing I want, because, dude, Twitter is super far left now, and it's like I'm tired of getting notifications on things.
That's a big assumption you're making.
What do you mean?
Is Twitter far left, or does Twitter profit off of chaos?
I think, well, here's the thing. So I think Twitter profits off of chaos, but adding warning tags to tweets and things, to me, is super dangerous, where it's like,
of course it's dangerous. They don't care about the fallout. They just care about the clicks. So, or they have a grand plan that manages the fallout in some way that benefits them, obviously. Twitter has now the money, like the liquid capability to start up a new type of tech if they want, and pivot, whereas a lot of smaller companies aren't able to do that.
Right.
So, I don't know that Facebook or Twitter really care about politics per se. I think more so than that, they care about creating demand on their platform, right? And they're apolitical, but it just so happened that they could fucking get a lot of people involved. And I also think maybe they're trying to stave off. You're making a choice at that point. If both parties are kind of casually talking about coming after you with antitrust and all this other stuff and breaking you up, and then you decide to go all out for one of the parties versus the other one, usually that means that some kind of deal was made, right? I mean, that's kind of how that works. I'm not accusing anybody of anything. Maybe there was no like handshake, like if you do this, we'll do this. But there are these conversations that happen on K Street and DC quite a bit, the lobbying arm of DC, where it's kind of tongue-in-cheek, like, well, if we got elected, we wouldn't really care so much about this. We're really focused on this thing. And that is a political operative telling Jack Dorsey that if you help us make sure Trump doesn't get elected, then you don't have to worry about this thing. And now you're prepared for the other thing that we are coming after you for. You know what I mean? Those kind of conversations happen all the time. And I don't think it's political. I think it's about money.
Well, the problem I have with it is this. Twitter itself, and I own stock in Twitter. I used to for a long time. I bought them at bargain basement prices because there was a time where it looked like they were heading towards bankruptcy. I mean, they could not have a profitable quarter, and they could not figure out how to gain subscribers and how to monetize on Twitter until the 2016 election happened. And then the company exploded, and it has now since doubled, maybe even tripled at this point. I bought it at 13. I don't know what the numbers are today, but that was, I want to say like 2015. I bought it at $13. Just looking at it today, it's at 42, right? If it weren't, so the company's tripled since then, since that election. To me, that was the driving force behind it, because you go on there, every time you see the top 25 trending topics, typically 20 of them are political right now. And they have been for years at this point. To me, if you're going to start putting warnings on different tweets and all that other shit, I want to look for an alternative to that. I am tired of that, because it's happening on Instagram, it's happening on Twitter, and it's happening on Facebook right now. I have always wondered the question, because Donald Trump himself drives a lot of this, either hatred for him or love for him, either way, right? Is driving a lot of traffic on Twitter and getting a lot of clicks and all that other shit.
Right.
What if after this is over and he's gone? What if he just picks up and goes to a Parler, deletes his Twitter account, and is like, I'm all done with this bullshit? Overnight, Parler would be gangbusters. Right. And what if the rest of the Republican politicians followed suit and did that, or all the big personalities like Ben Shapiro or Candace Owens, or, what if everybody just decided in the middle of the night to get off of Twitter and go over there? What would sustain them?
What would sustain Twitter?
Yes.
The same thing that sustains Reddit, which is links to other sites, right? So Parler would be, people would join Parler and post screenshots on Twitter, and all the left people that are left there will make fun of it, and then vice versa on Parler. That's all it'll be. It's like Fox and CNN. Like, at least on every primetime show on either one of those networks, on Fox News from 7 p.m. until 11 p.m. every night. Mm-hmm. I guarantee you'll see a minimum of 3 to 5 clips, video clips, of CNN or MSNBC or some other mainstream media network. Same thing vice versa. If you watch any of those other shows all night or any of those other networks all night, you'll see some clip of Fox News at some point. That's all it'll become. There will be no effective difference. You'll just further silo people into their own little echo chambers, and that's it.
Yeah, because by the way, full disclosure, I'm with you on this. I think both are an echo chamber for each other, right? If you want to believe in shit on the right, go to Parler. If you want to believe in shit on the left, go to Parler. Go to Twitter. With that, though, would there ever be a conversation where they got together and just said, hey, Jack Dorsey and whoever the owner is, the official owner of Parler, whoever's got the most shares in this, and just said, it would be rad if we did just split, and then that would help each other, kind of like a WWE type stitch, where there was good guys and heels and all that other shit. This Rebecca Mercer, I'm looking at a picture of her now. God, that's really funny, man.
If you were really trying to affect American politics, would you become a Republican or become a Democrat, try to play the middle, or would you try to own everybody involved? And this is my question. When somebody like Bezos or Amazon or any of the other Koch brothers on the other side of the fence, or Bloomberg back on the left, when they give a political candidate a bunch of money, what exactly are they purchasing with that money?
I guess favors in the future, or, hey, let's look the other way on some of these deals. And
right.
It's interesting you brought up Bezos in particular, because in this movie last night from Amanda Milius, like the P-tape story, right? With the Russiagate thing. They had claimed that the FBI had leaked it out to the Washington Post, because the Washington Post seems reputable, right? There was a movie about it, The Post, with Meryl Streep and Tom Hanks, and it's like, oh, the Washington Post. Washington Post is still owned by Jeff Bezos. But for some reason, they knew, like, hey, man, if you go to the Post with this, people will pay attention. They think it's more serious. Same thing if you went to the New York Times and all that other stuff. To that point of what you just said, is it more powerful just to own it? Yeah, because Bezos has got to know these stories are going through him, right? Or through his newspaper company. You're banking off of people's trust and what they think is real or not real. And more than likely, people are probably going to believe an article in the Washington Post versus Epic Times.
Right.
If that's what you're going with, right?
Yeah, but this is, we saw this same kind of transition. Any of you economists out there, I know a lot of economists listen to the show. We saw the same transition when multiple times throughout the last 100 years. So when we came off the gold standard was one, where people had to develop trust in this new currency that wasn't just one backed by solid gold somewhere, and then two by the federal government in some way. Then the second time it happened was debit cards. Credit cards and debit cards, I guess, over the course of about 15 years, where they became common and cash became not common. That was another transition period where people had to have more faith in it. And that led to the ultimate revolution, which was and cryptocurrency, and then, of course, sites like Venmo and PayPal, right? Like your money just goes, you have a password and everything. It's kind of like that scene from Blow where Johnny Depp's like, I just signed this piece of paper and you give me this little book and I give you $40 million. Right. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
And now we've all gotten to a point where we're pretty comfortable with that. And, I'm not one of those people that thinks we need to go back to a gold standard, because gold is, that is a very reductive way of thinking. Like what intrinsic value does gold have? It only has value because we fucking gave it value. The same thing as this paper money. That's how currency works.
Right.
Right. So the idea that gold may be somehow more intrinsically valuable, the reason people say that is because if we have gold here to back our dollar bills, then we can pay our debts with gold, even if our dollar bills stop being worth whatever they're worth.
Correct. Yeah.
Based on the international gold market. Well, the dollar is the international standard currency. So that's kind of dumb to think that we should go back to a gold standard at this point. Anyways.
Gold stocks, though, are doing unbelievably well this year.
Gold does really well
because it's crazy.
Gold does really well anytime there's an election year for the same reason that assault rifles do well. Anytime a Democrat might win president.
So gold's up $400 since coronavirus when it bottomed out. And then
I was going to say, it looked like it was at 1,800, and then I remember when it was at 1,300. So
yeah, that was at the peak fallout. But Bitcoin fell out to about $4,000 after Corona, is now back up to 16. And its peak was 20 at that 3 winters ago.
Yeah.
Yep. So that was at 20. So we're close to its original all-time peak.
I guarantee you, Fake Dan has money in crypto. You're a big guy, aren't you on that?
Oh, big time.
Yeah. I fucking know it.
Me and Giorgio. So.
Oh, both you guys? Do you guys both trade in it?
Yeah, we're both big in the crypto game.
There used to be Facebook posts about it all the time of like ups and downs of every day and all that other shit. I've got one buddy into it. If these are the numbers that it's at, shit, he got it at 4, I think. So 4,000. So you're good to go on this.
Anything that trades open or publicly, you can make a lot of money doing it if you play it correctly. There's no question about that. That's what currency is, right? So again, I go back to this. We're used to the devaluation of things that seemed valuable at some point, not just valuable, but the standard. And now that's happened with news media, right? So how do you reintroduce something? This is the reason I brought this up. How do you reintroduce or introduce a new idea that would take the place of an old idea and make people start investing their, I don't know what you would call it, their trust currency?
Yeah.
Into your medium at that point. Now that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I know that people distrust government and media now more than ever in the history of this country. Mm-hmm. So there's definitely a vacuum for that. The problem is that the vacuum is going in 2 very separate directions.
Right. And which one do you want to live in if you want to live in one? Right. I mean, I'm going to read the statement here from Rebecca Mercer regarding it just says she's bankrolling it. At this point, let's just say she bought the goddamn thing, her and her father. John and I started Parler to provide a neutral platform for free speech as our founders intended, and it also to create a social media environment that would protect data privacy, Mercer said in a statement. The ever-increasing tyranny and hubris of our tech overlords demands that someone lead the fight against data mining and for the protection of free speech online. That someone is Parler, a beacon to all who value their liberty, free speech, and personal privacy. Now, you and I both know the personal privacy thing will never fucking exist, right? Right. They're going to be mining that data as same as everybody else.
Well, yeah, of course they'll be they'll mine that and if they're smart, and I'm pretty sure the Mercer family knows how to make money. Mm-hmm. What they'll do is they'll just use that. Now, here's how this all works, by the way, with these new privacy laws. If you own the top level company, yep. Then technically anything you bring in under that LLC is still considered first party data, which means I can upload it directly into all these social media apps. Whereas a company like, if Drinkin Bros wanted to advertise, we could only use the data that we personally collected through our mediums, right? Right. And with, let's just say it's Mercer LLC, whatever their family LLC, I have no idea what it is, but any data they collect from Parler or if it happens, if they get into the Rumble game as well or any other thing like that, they can use directly in any capacity as a first party piece of data throughout their entire network, which is very powerful. That's the reason why Warner Media is buying up all these streaming services. It's the reason Disney got into the game hard. It's the reason ESPN brought UFC over. That's the reason for all this shit, because they want the data. The data, as demonstrated with Amazon Web Server, they can sell you shit all day. You can buy everything you need without ever leaving your house, and that company doesn't really make money off of any of it. because 77% of Amazon's revenue comes through AWS. 77%. More than 3/4 of their revenue comes just through the data collection and bandwidth. You know what I mean?
And a lot with Apple too, because it's mostly their apps. They take 30% of all these apps that are
Right.
on your phone and all that other shit. With Parler, I would say this. Look, they need money because they've got to fix their issues, obviously. You can't crash uploading little clips and things like that. They need a proper timeline for like news and shit like that. I don't know what the IP is for something like that if you were just to copy Twitter's and have the top trending things or whatever, but you need something like that where there is a feed with current news on it and then you can go there and can comment on it. But you know, with Parler, I would say this, I'm in this camp. Just be patient with it. All these apps take time and they grow over time. It depends on how much funding they get. In the short term, clearly they have a lot of funding that is heading their way, so it might become a thing. Right now, it's kind of difficult to navigate to spend a lot of time on there because they just don't have as much as Twitter, but Twitter's been around for years. Now, Rumble, on the other hand, I tried to learn the ins and outs of Rumble last week and over the weekend, and we just uploaded our first Drinkin Bros podcast on there, and we have a Drinkin Bros podcast on Rumble now. Rumble was easy, man. Now that was like break.com, for those of you who are in the early 2000s. Simple, easy websites, and they monetize immediately, which for YouTube, man, you've got to jump through crazy hoops to get the thing monetized. You know, you have to have 1,000 subscribers and all the other bullshit and everything else. This, you can just kind of cash out whenever you want and on PayPal, and they'll just kind of send it to you. And they're just asking for referrals and everything else. I hate to keep going back to this guy, but this Dan Bongino, who's got the #1 podcast on iTunes in the world. He's the very top show right now. He's #1 on all these sites. His show is #1 on Rumble. His followers on Parler and all that shit is #1, and he's got a pretty decent Twitter and Facebook following as well. But clearly, people have an appetite for this. And if you're wondering, or not, whether you should switch or not, Rumble is easy. They are there, in my opinion. Fuck, man. They even gave, when you pull it up too on their phone, just to look at Drinkin Bros podcast video.
You're talking about Rumble, right?
Rumble, yeah. The full description is right in front of your face too, which is nice. I didn't even get that on fucking iTunes, for Christ's sakes. So whatever is in our show, boom, is right there. Congratulations, it's right in your face. And it's very, very easy to use. Parler still has some work to do, but if people are going to start choosing sides, and I think that'll become more and more increasingly the likability or the likelihood coming up, especially if they shut down the country for 4 to 6 weeks when Biden gets in, like he's projected to, or like he says he was going to do. Yes, people will start choosing sides. Is that more dangerous? Or is it healthier?
Well, what do you think, Ross? I mean, remember 2000 with CNN and where they were positioned at the time, and then they took a hard left, and Fox News, who had already started on a right-leaning path, took a hard right.
Yep.
Now, where are we 20 years later? And you tell me whether or not you think it's good that the crowdsourced information, the one-on-one interactions between human beings are now somehow going to be simply
segregated.
Segregated is one word for it. I would say siloed, but yes, either way.
Yeah. So I was thinking about that on the drive over here because I obviously knew we were going to do the show today. Me personally, the hatred when I pull up my Twitter is in front of my face immediately, right? It is exactly like that Netflix movie, The Social Dilemma, where as soon as I pull that up, man, I am faced with 100 people that I hate and comments about shit that I disagree with immediately. I don't see any of my friends or any of that stuff, right? And I was thinking about this. Is it better for me personally as a person if I'm not immediately filled with hatred when I'm opening social media apps? Because of what we do for a living and everything that's going on and trying to stay on top of news stories and everything else, I just want the news, nothing but the news, and I don't want your opinions. However, I cannot get news anymore without opinions in it. Therefore, am I stuck with whose opinion I want versus trying to sift through shit that I hate to try to find what I want. And I don't know that answer.
Well,
I know it's not good for the country.
No,
but
I don't.
Me as a person,
I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing to have to go looking intently for information, because the more readily available something is, the more trust you develop in it, and the more trust you develop in it, the less academic rigor you apply when you take a look at it from a third-party perspective, right? Mm-hmm. So if something comes out let's say it's 30 years ago, if the government put something on a website, right?
Yeah.
You would believe it.
Yes.
And now that is not the case. And I don't think it's a bad
Correct.
thing. I don't think it's a bad thing that that's not the case anymore. I think it's good to be distrustful of government. I think it's bad, though, with what it does to one-on-one personalities, our personal relationships. We see it. I mean, everybody, this might be... Do you remember that Saturday Night Live sketch after Trump got elected, where they played "Hello" at Thanksgiving or whatever, and
Yeah.
like just people were just saying crazy shit. And
Yeah.
This might be one of the more tumultuous Thanksgivings in the history of this country since maybe the first one, right?
Well, we're not allowed to have them this year, so maybe not. You know?
No, I mean this will be a rough year, because you'll see people that believe it's not even just about having like half drunken debates at the dinner table anymore. Now it's about who's going to show up and why.
Right.
Who's going to exercise some individual liberty? Who cares more about the trend or the talking point from their party of stay home or go out or whatever the case is? It doesn't matter which side of the aisle you're on. This might be one of the most fractured holiday seasons in the history of this country, other than maybe, 1863 through 68 or so. Mm-hmm. That was a pretty rough time for America too. But I don't know what's going to happen here. I definitely don't think it's good. I think it's good that we question things, but I don't think it's good that we question each other's integrity. Like, we should be discussing the facts, and we should be maybe opining on it and analyzing the facts. Stuff like that is important, because you come up with new information, exegesis, if you want to call it that, from a analytical standpoint. But that's GESIS, not like Jesus.
Yeah. Shout out to JC though.
Yeah. I mean, that's an important process to go through for sure. But the fact that we don't accept each other's integrity is a problem. Like, usually if somebody says something, they'll make a statement, and you're like, oh, well, that's what you believe, and there's probably a bunch of reasons why. Now it's just like, oh, you just believe that because you heard it from somewhere else. And too often that is true, but really it's a culmination of all the other things people believe. So the idea that you can go into one of these debates or arguments or even a political cycle or whatever you're trying to do to communicate with people and think that quips and short form content are really going to convince somebody, you're out of your goddamn mind. You're trying to solve a maze by going straight through all the walls with an eraser. That's not how it works. We have to work our way backwards. And the idea that we don't have, one, the trust in that process, and two, the critical thinking necessary, and then three, the intent or desire to even do any of that, means that we're just going to keep believing whatever the fuck we want. And it is a nationwide version of cognitive dissonance sprinkled in with a little bit of confirmation bias, and we're all completely full of shit now.
Well,
we're only going to get more full of shit
Yeah.
unless we're challenging each other on a daily basis. Say what you want about Twitter and shit like that, but the average human being of, normal intelligence, and the average American does have above average intelligence relative to the rest of the world, should be able to go onto one of these sites, see two sides of an argument, and kind of pick out what probably happened. Right?
And look, I'm glad you brought that up as well, because on Twitter, when I have engaged with people that I disagreed with or disliked, right? Sometimes I would be hit back with instant responses from other people, other than the people that I'm arguing with, that were bots.
Right.
It was a canned response about whatever the thing that I was arguing against. And I was like, I mean, it was fast, too.
Yeah.
It was like within 2 minutes. And I was like, all right, well, shit. I'm not even arguing or having a disagreement with a real person anymore.
Correct.
And what am I doing here? Because I had to go to their thing, look at their eggshell, realize that they just signed up for Twitter 2 hours ago or whatever it was,
Right.
and then try to move on. The other issue is, like I was listening to a thing with Joe Biden about what he wants to do when he gets in, and He had a strong stance on social media and says we need policing and shit needs to change on there because it is shredding our democracy. One of his aides said, right?
Oh, yeah. Who exactly is going to be in charge of policing social media?
So this is exactly my point with all of this, right? So let's say he gets in there. Whose facts are you believing and who do they benefit?
Yeah.
They're not going to be just real facts based in a world because, even this bullshit with every single Instagram post you put up is anything, remotely regarding the election, like, if you put the word vote in there.
Isn't this the public utility, though?
No, it is not a public utility.
No, but isn't this what happens when you make it a public utility?
Well, it should be a public utility, but we'll see. I don't know what's going to happen with this, but when you go on Instagram...
But that's the same thing, right? The government controls it and runs it. Like, that's what a public utility is it not?
Potentially. I'm not sure in the social media landscape.
No, like if you think about who's the power company here? Actually, I don't know.
Oh, here we'll take North Carolina, Duke Energy.
Duke Energy, or in the Bay Area for water, it's EB Mud, right? Technically, yeah, but it's a private company that is regulated by
the government.
The same as the power company. What the fuck is the power company in California? I can't remember the name of it now.
Oof. LADWP is who I used to write my checks to in Los Angeles,
but either way, it feels like this is more control the government is then having. Like
PG&E, that's it.
Well, no, what he's saying is it is a private company that owns it, and then the government regulates it to make sure you're not paying too high.
The government's job is not to run day-to-day operations for anything. The government's job is to say, hey, we've talked to everybody. We've had economists and scientists and doctors and whomever else look into this issue. And we feel like the best solution is this. So here are the rules. Abide by these rules. Their job is not to fucking start taking over the means of production of anything, particularly not public utilities, because when that happens, then the government, we saw it happen.
It sounds like censorship with more steps. Is what this
essentially,
like.
Yeah. So we saw it already happen in California where fuckface McGee out there, Newsom, is threatening to shut down the power to people's houses who are having large parties. Mm-hmm. Like that's the idea that the government would have the authority to shut down energy coming into your home because of something you chose to do is fucking crazy.
And he did for the TikTok kids. He shut their fucking house down.
I mean, that's wild that the government would even consider itself some kind of authority in such a way that it would be able to justify that is wild to me. We've definitely gotten away. Obviously, everybody I think knows this at this point, but we're so far away from anything that the framers had in mind. I wonder if you were to ask all the men who signed the Declaration of Independence, how much should a lobbyist have to pay to be in good favor with a congressman or senator? And they would look at you with disbelief and then probably shoot you in your fucking face. Like, what do you mean somebody can buy the democracy that we're creating?
Right.
Why would that be okay? Why would special interests have anything to do with this? So everybody knows we're so far away from this shit. I honestly don't know what is going to happen here. People are so unwilling to fight in any way that matters. I mean, I wonder if something more drastic is not over the horizon now, right? We're in an escalation war right now, mm-hmm. and I don't know who's going to run out of ammo first. When I say it's a three-party war, it's the right and left, and then it's whomever's controlling the messaging from above politics,
right?
Because we know that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
So, who wins? Definitely not the people who are fighting the wars. You know what I mean? General Cornwallis, after he lost the American Revolution, went back and lived on his estate as a relative billionaire for the rest of his life, right?
Right.
All the soldiers from the British Army that died, they're fucking in the mud somewhere, dead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the difference. Why are we fighting amongst ourselves for these assholes? Like, what's that mean to me exactly? The answer is nothing. I don't care about any of that shit. And neither should you. So when there's a good metaphor about this. There's, if you put black ants and fire ants in the same container, they will just go about their business. If you shake the jar up, they both assume the other one is attacking them, and they'll start fighting each other based on their relative color, right? That is a very good metaphor for America today.
I agree. And again, to go back to the fucking Instagram thing, whenever you post a keyword regarding the election, it says the AP has called the election for President-elect
But don't we
Joe
have
Biden.
to let them do that until they make a bad enough product to another social media will rise up and take its place? Like if they let them eat themselves, then we transition.
Well, there is no but this is the whole debate of Parler and Rumble, right?
They have to make a good enough product to pull
Correct.
us over to.
Yes, to pull you over to, and then this shit will end. The problem is it takes so much money and space and storage and time to do that. I don't know if Americans have enough patience. I think, going back to it when Vine ended, right? And people were super stoked about Vine. At least Instagram was there, and they were waiting in the wings, and they were like, great, give us all your video. We'll figure out how to put stories
there's no
up.
infrastructure for fledgling social media companies.
I agree.
So maybe that's the area. That
Well,
we could-
infrastructure for fledgling social media companies, if you mean technical infrastructure, that shit is as easy as money, right? Anybody
you
can
just
buy
purchase them.
anybody can buy rack space and engineers as long as you have money. The real infrastructure is human capital. And by human capital, I mean customers that are going to come over to that site. Parler is not having any problems getting people to come to their site.
No.
They're blowing up right now.
So what do they do with it? Like, how do they
well,
manage
here's
it?
what do they do with it is they're going to fucking continue to draw people over and monetize their data and their traffic. That's what anybody would do. What they should do is to try to draw as many fucking comedians over there as possible.
Right, because
and
when you're talking about the short-term win, I'm thinking long-term win.
yeah, long-term win would be to draw as many. No group of people individually is more angry with PC culture than comedians because it's ruined their fucking careers.
Yeah.
They went from people who would do stand-up for the first 5 to 10 years of their career a lot, come up with like 3 or 4 hour-long specials. Maybe this is a successful person. Come up with a couple of hour-long specials, get a sitcom, then transition into more serious acting. That we've seen a million cases of that. Fucking Jim Carrey is one of the first.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Seinfeld, same thing. Leno, but he went into talk stuff. I mean, all these old school guys did that shit. And they did it with, except for Leno, even Seinfeld, though he worked clean, did a lot of edgy shit. He talked about stuff. He just didn't swear. You know what I mean? But anyways, Eddie Murphy, he did swear.
Yeah.
He took, and Richard Pryor as well, they both turned very obscene stand-up careers and turned them into fucking movie stardom. You cannot do that anymore.
No.
And so nobody's more pissed off than these people, but traditionally speaking, they're not exactly the most conservative bunch. There are plenty of, I would say 30 to 40% conservatives among them, because there's nothing...
and even that number might be high.
It might be, yeah, but there's nothing intrinsically liberal about comedy. As a matter of fact, it kind of it ebbs and flows with society. So that would be if I was Parler, I would be trying to get as many comedians on as possible, and I'd be like, yeah, a lot of conservatives are coming over here, but the reason for that isn't because we're a conservative site. It's because people are tired of being censored, right?
There's a place they can make fun of everyone.
Yeah, if there's a place where you want to be able to have discussions with people without all this bullshit interference,
Right.
then come over. That would be my messaging, but I don't think they'll do that because it won't pay as much.
I think they should back up the truck for Trump when he gets out of office and tell him to delete his Twitter and bring all of that over there overnight. That would do it. His entire family. Just say, hey, like the Kardashians, how much do we have to give you? Because
Right.
I remember when WhatsApp was starting, the Kardashians, they had a stake in that thing.
Right.
Dude, I think if you backed up the money for the Trump family and said, hey man, we're gonna get the whole family on here and make this the new Twitter, then that would really shake some shit up over there, like overnight. And look, if you're gonna give him $100 million for a book, imagine him sending out, what do they call the Parler things? It's Parleys or
I have no idea.
I forget.
If that's it, they need to come up with a better fucking name.
Yeah,
because
they
that
do.
sucks.
They do. However, when you retweet something, it's called echoes. So, like that's fine. But whatever they're calling it, because he's a content machine all day long.
Yeah, he is. I mean, that's probably what will happen. There will probably be a Trump network of some sort that pops up, and
I'm glad you brought that up because that's.
I mean, it's going to be there will be one of several companies that they go after. The Blaze will be one of them for sure.
Newsmax is in talks right now, which we'll get to after the sponsors.
The Daily Wire is probably off the table. I don't think that would even be possible. But
No.
Newsmax for sure. Maybe the Blaze. We'll see.
We'll see. But we'll talk about Newsmax after the sponsors. First and foremost, ghostbed.com/Drinkin Bros. Kids, 30% off if you're a member of the military, a first responder, a teacher, or work in the government. That's everything in the entire store. That's mattresses, sheets, pillows, adjustable bases, you name it. And finally, they're giving the rest of us dummies the 30% off that we deserve here today. So that's a nice thing. Go to ghostbed.com/Drinkin Bros today, where, as always, they got a 36-month pay-as-you-go program. No interest at ghostbed.com/Drinkin Bros. I'm a little slow today, D'Anthony. I won that championship trophy, and maybe the success went to my head of guiding the Blue Dragons, my child's 6 and under soccer team, to the championship.
Right.
Somebody did post something today that I brought another championship back to Texas. Yes, I did, and you're welcome for that. But at ghostbed.com/Drinkin Bros, you can sleep like a champion. Now you're getting 2 free pillows with a mattress, and I know they're going to have a monstrous Black Friday deal. I can't wait to see what that is. Every year they outdo themselves, so we'll see what happens there. Next up, D'Anthony, we get expressvpn.com/Drinkin Bros. Look, man, no matter what app you're on, Parler, Rumble, YouTube, whoever, man, you got to protect your fucking shit, dude. It's a seamless app that runs in the background of everything. Phones, computers, laptops, desktops, you name it. And it not only protects all your information as far as banking and everything else goes, but it lets you see content in other countries too, which is great because if the world is going to shut down again, like I think it will, Hollywood's going to shut down, and you're going to be thrown back into what are we watching now?
Well, I mean, there's going to be some more shutdowns, it looks like, which is really funny, to be honest.
Well, I mean, look, there's going to be a lot of people without fucking
Here's
jobs.
what you do. If you really want the first 100 days of a Biden administration to look good, if you're, let's say, I don't know, Democratic House Majority Leader, for example, you start influencing the governors in those states to shut everything down. The major New York and California, which are 38 million and 20 some million people each. I think actually is New York 18 or is it 20? I don't remember. Anyways, millions of people. The 2 of the biggest states in the country. You have them completely shut down their economy and then magically open them back up again right before Biden starts. And they've learned this lesson before. You can't have a long tail lift coming out of the Trump administration that leads into a Biden lift.
Right.
Because that's what they said about Trump,
Obama. Yeah.
about Trump's lift,
Yep.
right? Coming from Obama. So can't do that anymore.
Can't do it. We'll see what happens. But look, if you are at home, and a lot of people are working from home now, you've got to have a VPN, dude, behind your system for all your shit, because we're all paying for things online. We're all signing up for different apps and trying to find different avenues for content and everything else. Go to expressvpn.com/Drinkin Bros right now. You get 3 extra months of expressvpn.com/Drinkin Bros for free on there. So it's $7 a month. If you sign up for the year, you get 3 months free. That's as good as deals you have. Look, we've had this shit for years at this point. It's just necessary. It is a necessary evil in this world. Last but not least, VinceroWatches.com. D'Anthony, I got them on right now, dude. I don't want to say this is the watch of champions, but it's the watch of champions. I wore this during the game. Boom, you got one on too. Did you get a bigger face than I did?
No, I think it's the same.
Fuck, dude.
No, it's the same.
You have the leather one. I've got
I think
the rubberized
this is like
one.
a 42 millimeter face, something like that.
That's nice. That is bigger than mine.
No, it's the same. It just looks. You have that bezel around the inside that makes it look smaller, but it's the same size. The watch face is.
Okay. All right. I'm just checking, dude. I don't want to have a fucking smaller face. That's
No,
weird.
Well,
I wouldn't have that in this life.
I call those people tine heads. There's some people whose heads are too small for their bodies.
Yeah, it looks like an olive on a toothpick.
Yeah, and it really creeps me out. I don't like it.
Creeps me out too.
I'd rather deal with John Travolta, for example, than somebody with a small head.
DiCaprio's got a huge head in real life, by the way.
Oh,
basketball. It's like a fucking basketball on his head. But whatever, man. These watches are the best. I wore this when I coached the championship. If they're doing Sports Illustrated ads or something and you need somebody to model these off with my championship trophy, which will be on Drinkin Bros Sports tomorrow, I will do that for you because I am a champion now. And I brought another state title home to Texas for the Blue Dragons. And these watches are great for running. Look, I was running around this whole goddamn thing. I got the rubberized one because I was sweating, running around doing all kinds of shit in it. But it also looks nice, and I look like an adult parent. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I showed up with a calculator watch on, people would be like, hey, don't touch my children. Don't be anywhere near them. But instead, I didn't. You'll need a nice watch. It's Christmas time, man. It's a great gift. They never offer promo codes or discounts there, but they are now. Go to vincerowatches.com. That's VINCERO watches.com. Promo code Drinkin Bros. That'll get you a 15% off there. I believe, right? So it's they're 15?
You're talking about Vincero watches?
Yeah. It's big boy
question.
savings there.
I don't know.
Yeah. Either way, man.
He's not in here.
Fuck, man. There is a million watches out there in the world.
A few, yeah.
But on their website, dude, they're all pared down. So it's just
now's
like the
that time of
coolest
year
shit.
too.
It is, man.
I mean,
Get
if you're
it for
trying to
fucking
buy,
stocking.
if you want to buy like a super nice gift for somebody and not spend that much money, this is a really good way to go. I mean,
yes.
Couple $100 for a watch that is the same quality as any of the $1,000 watches I have is a pretty good fucking deal.
All you need is just Drinkin Bros items for all your shit. Shit, the new book is coming out December 8th. As the sun rises, it dawns on him.
Oh shit, this
third one
expires Wednesday.
No shit.
Wednesday's the last day for this 15% off site wide. I don't know if they've got a new deal
Damn,
coming
son.
up, but
go to vincerowatches.com. Promo code Drinkin Bros, 15% off. You got 2 days. 2 days right before Christmas. I understand it, though. They never fucking give discounts.
no.
Dude, that's like a super nice watch company.
It's already pretty inexpensive. So.
Yeah, dude. It's a super nice watch company. There's no fucking way that they would leave a discount up this long. Amazing. Next up, D'Anthony. We cock teased this right before the sponsors, but this Newsmax thing. I'm not familiar with Newsmax. You were. And you were like, hey, this is not surprising. If Trump is to have his own media company, this would be the one to pick up and move on.
Right.
And it looks like it's in the $200 million range to purchase this right now. What is it, and where did this come from? Is it currently on television?
What, Newsmax?
Yeah.
I mean, they've had their own quote-unquote TV stations over the years, but, you know, they do they've been around since 98, first of all, for a while, right? And just like every other independent news organization, I'm sure it started out as a good, like, hey, we're not getting the full story here. We're going to go get the full story and blah, blah, blah. Well, it never really works out that way. And you can see that with things like, I don't know, MSNBC or Epic Times or The Blaze. They all just go in their own direction. You know what I mean? And they start to believe that their own editorialism is somehow the reality of the situation, which is not true. This, however, is probably the most likely landing spot for Trump. I mean, they during the election process over the last couple of weeks, I think their average viewers were something like 220,000 per episode, per show, or something like that, which would make them probably about a quarter the size of the CNN and Fox News audiences. But if you bring Trump over there as an owner / content creator, and all of his stuff is isolated on that one network, there's two things will happen. One, CNN, Fox, MSNBC, all these other very highly rated in Google websites will have to link back to them, so their link back score is going to be huge, which means they're going to index really highly in Google search engines and any other search engine, which means they're going to get traffic that they've never fucking seen before, just for having all of his content over there only.
Yep.
That'll be the first thing that happens. The other thing that happens is that our entire democracy, our republic, will dissolve under our feet.
The beauty of doing a live show like this on YouTube, and this happens every once in a while, but you just happen to be talking about the subject, and there's breaking news on it. Newsmax CEO says, we are not actively selling. We have no desire to be Trump TV. Newsmax says they may be focused on conservative audiences, but has very liberal views of where its business can go in the future as an independent news operation. The top executive has now come out and said Newsmax would never become Trump TV. His name is Christopher Ruddy. It's a weird name, dude. Weird looking dude, too. We have always seen ourselves as an independent news agency and want to continue that mission. But we are open. Trump is going to be political and a media force after he leaves the White House. And we would be open to talking to him about a weekly show, he says. But we are not actively selling, though he notes that he has had expressions of interest from investors, investment banks, strategic players in the recent past. We listen to them, but our main focus is continuing. We would like to overtake Fox News in the next 12 months, and I think it's doable. Again, I understand all that, but I have never seen this channel on television.
No, I don't know if they're actually on TV. I think they just have their own.
And I'm not saying that's mandatory, but look, for the older audiences who watch news, and that is a big fucking quadrant of people who watch it is older people, right?
Right, but they're going to be that older voter who is targetable by traditional media and like direct mail and shit. Mm-hmm. They are becoming less and less of the voting population. I think Twitter taught us that in 2016, right? I mean,
right.
Trump got elected because of Twitter, mostly Twitter and Cambridge Analytica, and the fact that Parler just got bought by the daughter of the man who started Cambridge Analytica. Let's be real. Like they're going full press on conservative media at this point.
Yeah,
there's no question about that. So watch for Newsmax to get bought out by somebody like their family, right?
Right.
And then for Trump to come in afterwards.
To come in and make a statement like that today.
Right. That's a negotiation tactic.
It
That's
is,
all
yes.
Yeah.
They're looking for more money.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Trump, let's see, just trying to think about this out loud because this is happening right now. Trump on a weekly channel. Look, he's not an interviewer. So, because this was pitched by Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh said, look, when I die, which is, going to be soon, his pitch was Trump should take over his radio show and all of those listeners and all that other stuff, right? I don't think Trump is a 3-hour-a-day talk guy. I don't know that he's also a host on a show or I don't see him as a Hannity. Do you?
I don't think he's a conservative.
Who, Trump?
No. I think he is I think he's a businessman that is a political opportunist. For example, let's say roles were reversed the same way that it was with the Monroe Doctrine back in the day, and the left was super trying to get into a war and the right was super anti-war, and those things flipped obviously later on in American history. And that particular issue has flipped several times actually, and social justice issues have flipped back from one party to the next. I think that he came in at a time where the left had just happened to embrace being a total pussy, right? Mm-hmm. And he didn't respect that, and he thought that it was leading down a dangerous road. So he came out probably way too hard on the other side of that fence, and it worked for a little while. But when you do that, there's something called traction. You make a lot of noise in the beginning, and then you tighten up and focus on policy and growth afterwards. And he never made that transition, obviously, and that's why he didn't get reelected, at least so far as we know.
Well, I mean, looking at the numbers, he got because they were asking. I watched this 60 Minutes with Obama last night. They were promoting his new book that's coming out,
right?
Which is going to be a 2-parter, which is completely unnecessary. That's the first president in the history of our country to have a 2-part book when he leaves office.
Yeah.
It's just money at that point, and congratulations. But what he was saying, there was one tough question last night. One. That's it. Other than that, they were just sucking his dick on 60 Minutes for 30 minutes. But they asked him, they were like, look, man, you can say Trump lost and all that other shit, but he got 8 million more votes than he did in 2016.
Right.
So, did it work? Did it not work? I mean, the other part about it that really tweaked Obama last night was they made sure to get in. They were like, he got more votes than when you were in office or running for office. Joe Biden did. And Obama was like, yeah, he did. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the rhetoric hurt him or not, because shit, he broke his own fucking record by 8 million last time. So I don't know.
Well, he lost.
He did, yeah. But it took a record. It took an all-time record of a vote to fucking get him out of there, which is crazy.
But it's, I mean, you're just talking about activating more of the public. He didn't convince enough of the public that what he was saying was intentional. They just think he's a loudmouth, ignorant racist, instead of making the point on a regular basis that, I mean, he would not make a very good comedian, because a comedian always brings it back to, like, obviously what I'm saying is hyperbole. I'm just trying to get your attention and make a point. Trump never did that.
Right.
Like, he
would tell you 2 months later that it was a joke.
Yeah, which is not, I mean, that you shouldn't be joking in the first place like that anyways. But if you do, you should certainly be prepared to spend another 5 to 10 minutes explaining what the fuck you just said for dum-dum, so nobody can take you out of context. Mm-hmm. But it is what it is, right? I mean, I don't think that I don't think he ever grew from that policy of just making noise. And I don't know. I don't think that a lot of stuff he did was conservative, at least in the way we think of it now. But 15 years ago, would we have still called those moves conservative, or would they just be like a normal, moderate move? Like the idea, listen to most of the things that Trump said, right, during his initial campaign. Take out all the rhetoric and then compare it to everything that Obama said in 2008. And just come back to me after you've done that and tell me if you think that Trump is really a conservative hero of some sort. Because, and I'm not saying he's not necessarily conservative, I'm just saying I think the line between those two things is more about political expediency than it is reality. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because Obama was like, we need strong borders. We have to get rid of these fucking people that are coming across the border. We have to
look, he built the cages, for Christ's sakes, down there. The kids are in and all that shit.
Obama deported more people than all previous presidents combined,
including Trump.
Yeah, and the drone strike thing and all this other stuff. So it wasn't like, it's not like there's some hard line between these two things. That's just not reality. And we fight over the crumbs in between our political differences very frequently, and it's empowered both sides. And what has the right done with that information? Not much. And what's the left done? Become way too cozy with socialism, right? Yep. And the right hasn't done very much except for complain about it, right? Frankly. So it'll be interesting to see where we go from here. I don't think that it'll be funny, I guess, in a way, ironic, if Trump becomes some new modern standard for conservatism, because the same thing happened with Reagan. But Reagan raised taxes 5 out of the 8 years he was in office.
Yeah, and there's a great doc that is actually coming out about Reagan on Showtime. They just dropped the trailer for it, and it's super interesting, the timing of all of it, because it talks about Nancy during the last 4 years, because of his cognitive decline, that she was the one making decisions, and I think we're headed towards the same thing now in this presidency. So I'll be fascinated to watch it, but it was also fascinating to hear his son talk about, his dad was an actor, and he goes, look, job of president is more about being a great actor, and then getting things passed when you can. Right. The last story that I wanted to chat about here with you is there's a guy named Dr. Phi on here, or DRFIYE. He says, I'm curious as a foreigner about Attorney Sidney Powell and her comments on the Dominion voting program and possible proof of widespread voter fraud. This is another thing that I was talking to Jared about last night. His girlfriend Morgan who was on the show for our election show. She was talking about this Dominion voting system and how it was used in like Venezuela and everything else. Is that possible? Is any of this possible, and how do you prove any of it if there is voting fraud going on? Because to me, I look at it, today's November 16th. It's a little too late for this shit. Like, I think pretty much everybody's over this at this point. There doesn't seem to be, at least in my opinion, to go really ham on a show on like voter fraud without any proof. Thus far, I haven't seen it. Have you?
No.
What about this Dominion thing? You've been in some elections. Is that Is this voting system flawed? Is that possible that someone could hack into this? Like,
well, yeah, I mean, sure it is. There's no unhackable system. That's not a thing. Even if it's completely air gapped, which means it's never connected to the internet, all you need is local access. One of my professors, when I went to school for computer networking and security back in the day, he was a former Navy nuke sub engineer. And he was like, he basically explained to me, it doesn't matter how strong of a system you create. If somebody can walk in and sit down at a terminal with that system, there's no security at all. And basically, election workers don't have access to that kind of stuff, but the Dominion software people do. And the Dominion software does have some weird connections. One of the guys that was on the parent company is on the transition team for Biden. The software definitely is used in Venezuela. We know how those elections go. Yep. It is a Canadian company, which is weird. You can run for president only if you were born in this country, but the system used to tabulate the votes can be from anywhere, apparently, which is problematic, right? I mean, we want to be in control of our own democracy here to make sure that the republic is staffed accordingly. That's the whole point of democracy, or representative democracy, rather. So all these things are weird to me. I haven't seen any direct evidence of anything, though.
Me neither. Me neither. I keep hearing it's coming.
I'm certainly open to that. Well, Rudy Giuliani keeps saying, "Oh, we've got him this time." Like, just show. I'm tired of hearing that, dude.
Yeah, just show us
We've been
proof.
hearing that for a long time. I think if you're on the left, you probably understand this a little bit more now. If you're a critical thinker on the left, because you were waiting this whole time for a Russia-Trump connection, and all of a sudden it turned out to be nothing. And not only was it nothing, but it was the Hillary Clinton campaign paying for the Steele dossier and to drum up this shit about Russian collusion and all this stuff just to affect his campaign and then his administration in the first couple of years. I think the left, if you're a smart person on the left, you probably understand how full of shit everybody is now. And you probably, like any other person, apply that more to the opposite side than you do to yourself. So they're not going to believe any of that shit anyway. So it doesn't matter. I think I don't know what kind of evidence at this point would be incontrovertible to a Democrat such that they would accept the results if they were overturned. I don't think it exists.
I don't either. And everything that Dan just said was literally in the movie that I watched over the weekend, The Plot Against the President, which is #1 on Amazon, and it's Prime. So they put it up for free. So if you have Amazon Prime right now, I guess Amazon bought the movie, but it tells the true story of Congressman Devin Nunes uncovering the operation and like how you really have to go after these people and have the will to do it, because he was also saying, he was like, look, man, a lot of these things people just give up on, like congressmen. They're too lazy, they just don't care, or they're afraid of the backlash of what happens to you. But he kind of went through like everything that happened to his family and himself through the media and everything else, and he was like, man, we would know when we were getting closer to things based on like what the media was saying about us and vice versa. And he goes, some people just don't want to get involved in that. And everybody in this documentary was completely normal. Like there was no salacious, like, oh my gosh, there was, some woman showing up in fucking crazy lipstick at the end of it. Like that other fucking thing I watched a few weeks ago. So it's interesting. The Dominion thing, I don't know. I have no idea. And like, that is above my pay grade, to be honest with you. I'm not smart enough to know any of that shit.
The idea that could happen, the answer to that is absolutely. I mean, the problem is, how do you prove it? I mean, I guess if this is something that should have happened before
the election started?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we knew in probably April that there was at least some chance that COVID was going to affect the way we did this. And what happened exactly? A bunch of test balloons were flown by both parties about mail-in voting and various other ways to handle this shit. Even suspending the election until a later date or doing it earlier. There's a bunch of stuff got thrown out. And I assume the two respective parties paid attention to that data and just picked a side. I'm like, you know what? We can probably get people so distrustful. I mean, it was a mistake. If the Republicans' entire ethos here was to get people to distrust mail-in voting and people didn't vote because of that, then they made a huge mistake because a lot of their voters didn't vote because they didn't trust the process.
Right.
Regardless if the process itself was corrupted or not, they made a mistake by doing that. I don't know if that was their plan or not, but it seemed to be the fucking result of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, looking back at it, it's going to be an interesting case study because I think you're right, where I think both sides built a narrative 6 months before the election of if you mail in your votes, it's going to be fraud. Therefore, you should show up. But, you know, if you were worried about COVID, and let's face it, the numbers were spiking, right?
Right.
Whether or not how or what you believe in and all that other shit. And some people stayed home. When you get to an election where, you know, you're off by 14,000 votes in some of these states, like, shit, that's not many people at all. Yes, if you would have mailed in your ballots or done whatever, you could have absolutely beat that. But then again, you look at the record turnout for Trump, the highest of any sitting president. I don't know what more they could have done. I guess the things that I remain curious about are if you truly just hated Trump, right, during this whole shit, could it have been anyone who won, like Pete Buttigieg or, but look, Bernie Sanders, I think, was probably their best bet, but it turns out it didn't matter. It was actually Biden, right? Could have been Bernie. Could it have been anyone on that side if you were just truly voting out of hatred against Trump? Because I still don't have one Democrat friend who has come up to me and said, hey, man, I really love Joe Biden and the policies and he's enacting. Like I just have not heard that from anyone yet.
No,
still.
It's a very interesting situation because what I hear most is the same thing we heard. Well, not only the same thing, but one of the things we heard about Obama is like, yeah, he restores some dignity to the White House. I'm like, what are we trying to accomplish in this country? Are we trying to be the most dignified country? Or are we trying to be the best? That's a question I would ask anybody. So are you more comfortable with somebody who is I wouldn't say less eloquent, like he's intentionally an asshole.
Yeah.
Trump is.
Yeah.
Like, are you more comfortable with somebody who's a little bit coarse or a lot coarse that gets good results? Like, would you rather have, who's a good example here? Would you rather have Phil Jackson or Bobby Cox? Bobby Cox is a nice guy, would never say anything negative about any of his players in the media. Phil Jackson, on the other hand, would constantly challenge his own players in the media, talk shit, intentionally say things to motivate or demotivate or escalate or whatever the case was. Played a lot of mind games in the press. Kind of an asshole, right? His relationship particularly with the Bus family, aside from his fucking wife.
He was laying the wood to Jeannie.
Aside from his wife, was not that great for certain stretches when he was with the Lakers. Obviously, his relationship with Chicago didn't go well because they fucking wanted him out of there. I have no idea why. They could have won at least 2 or 3 more championships.
It was an ego of the general manager wanting more credit for
sure,
it. But for me, like, I go with championships. You know, Phil Jackson has 12.
I want to win.
Bobby Cox has 1, yeah.
Yeah. And it's, well, technically Phil's got 13 with the one he won with the Knicks, but he didn't really do much back then. Was that 72 or something like that?
He knocked some people around.
He was a good bench player. But anyways, yeah, I try to err on the side of actually succeeding. You know what I mean? I don't want to look good failing. I want to fucking win. I don't give a shit what it looks like when I win. So, you know, I guess it's just a matter of deciding between those two things. I haven't heard anybody, like we had Jaleel White on yesterday. He wanted to bring up politics, which didn't go well.
We've gotten a lot of comments on that today, yes.
Yeah. Obviously a misinformed guy, but at the end was open to, you know, certain things. But it's, man, people just believe whatever the fuck, right? To me, if you see somebody choosing either outside of their own best interest or outside of the very clearly observable facts, that means they came to the table with a conclusion and they're just searching for any kind of evidence to support their conclusion and make them feel good about it, right? So the idea of why did you vote for Biden? Because Trump's racist. Like, all right, cool, man. Really? That's your only answer to that question?
No, look, he had another interesting answer that I think a lot of people had the same answer too, where he was like, dude, I've got a 12-year-old daughter, and I didn't like the things that Trump was saying on TV, and then having to explain to her later on that was the president of the United States saying these things on television.
Right.
I've had a similar struggle with my children as well with that, because one of them's 6, the other one's 2. He doesn't understand shit, but the 6-year-old does. And we were out last year when he was 5, and he spotted this like Donald Trump head, and he goes, I want the Donald Trump head for this thing. It was one of the squishy ones with the water in it and whatever. And I was like, oh, you know who the president of the United States is? And he goes, yeah, I know who the president is. And I was like, oh, all right, cool. And then as he progressed over that year and now can read and all this other stuff, like the things that he was hearing on TV, he could understand. And then he would ask me certain phrases, what the president was saying and vice versa. And then you'd have to explain them to them. I'm much more able to tolerate that as an understanding for why you would vote for somebody else rather than, oh, he's racist. Like that, because that, yes, I don't believe in that, you know?
Right.
But, you know, again, do you want what's best for the country or somebody who's a great speaker? Obama was a great speaker, but I don't think he did dick for his community or that much for the country, to be honest with you, whereas Trump wasn't. But shit, financially, everything was rolling, and the economy and unemployment numbers were the lowest I've ever seen. So I'm with you on that debate. Bobby Cox or, you know, Phil Jackson, I want the championships. I don't give a shit how it's done.
Right.
To be real with you. And I'm not sure where we are headed. Because if we get into another lengthy shutdown here, we're fucked. And more every day, you're seeing these places shut down in cities and all that other stuff. Ohio today is saying, hey, man, they're on the edge of shutting everything down.
Right.
With Governor DeWine. And if this canceled, the Super Bowl and the NCAA playoffs for football, that's what I'm really concerned with, obviously. That's going to be a no-go for me, you know, as a person.
Well, the last rumor I heard from at least Michigan, I think Whitmer is shutting down everything there, including all sports.
Correct.
Which
well,
means
I didn't hear about sports, but I heard about everything else. And the other thing, because this was last night and this was trending,
right?
And I read it. Here was what was crazy about Twitter too, is like, again, back to the Twitter and Parler thing. The overwhelming majority of people on there were supportive of it in Michigan. They were like, shut this bitch down.
Yeah, you got to think Harbaugh is very supportive of this
yes.
right now.
Yeah. Michigan football, Michigan State's terrible. Like, if they leave, who cares? I mean, look, I want to see Ohio State, Michigan, just to see Ohio State stomp them. That spread's going to be fucking 30 on that game. If it's 21 against Indiana, Christ, imagine what it is against Michigan. Yeah, they would definitely want the state shut down for all sports, one would imagine. But I think their basketball team's coming in at like top 5.
So the new thing released from Michigan, from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, I believe it is. So it's called the Pause to Save Lives. It's good messaging. It's not true, but it's good messaging.
Right.
So here's what's open. 2 household gatherings. Which means you can invite one person over.
Great.
Hair salons and barber stuff, small outdoor gatherings, which is 25 or less, gyms, restaurants and bars for outdoor dining, takeout or delivery, but not indoor dining. Retail stores are open, preschool through 8th grade, professional sports without spectators, public transit, healthcare, funerals, but 25 people or less, which is weird.
Yeah.
Preschool, child care, and then manufacturing, construction, infrastructure related blue collar stuff. Here's what's not open. High schools to in-person learning, theaters, movie theaters, stadiums, arenas, right?
Yep.
Bowling centers, ice skating rinks, anything fun. Bingo halls, casinos, arcades, group fitness, done. Restaurants and bars, indoor dining, done. Workplaces are done if there's the chance that you can work from home or whatever the fuck. College and universities for in-person learning, and then organized sport except for professional sport, which to me says that college is going to be shut down.
Yeesh.
So Michigan and Michigan State, who are, you know, having, they may be involved in this somehow, to be honest, because they're both having
the worst.
They may be. This might be the worst combined season for those 2 universities ever.
Yeah.
At least since either one of them have been relevant. So
I think they're 1-7 collectively, right? Or
I don't know.
2-7. I mean, it's
Michigan State has the only win. And it's against Michigan. So
that's funny.
Jesus Christ. Man, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. The crazy thing is, again, all the people on Twitter were like, shut this bitch down. Way to go, Big Gretch. How big is she? Big Gretch was trending. Is she a large woman?
Is it big as in large, or is it big the same way that people are named Lil something?
I don't know. What's Gretchen Whitmer's height and weight? I'd be curious on that. I will read the Drinkin Bro of the week. You tell me her height and weight. I got to know where the big Gretch is. I only see her like behind a thing, so I don't know how tall she is.
There's no way they have her weight listed.
Do they?
No, they don't. I'm saying there's no way.
All right. Well, how tall is she?
5'8".
No. Is she? Well, 5'8", I guess, is relatively tall. I can't tell, but Big Gretch is her nickname.
It says
apparently.
5'8", yeah.
Big Gretch is her nickname. So maybe she's kind of linebacker-ish. I've never seen her in real life.
64 kilograms, so convert that.
That's 140 pounds, give or take.
140 at 5'8". That's decent.
Yeah, that's a normal.
I don't know why she's going by Big Gretch.
Yeah, I mean, she's kind of,
Pull up that picture on the right there. Yeah.
Maybe she's got big hands.
she's kind of attractive.
Can she palm a basketball, you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, for a lady like this looks like somebody Giorgio would go after. How old is she? She's got to be, what, 48? No, I'm sorry, 52 maybe. Just type in Gretchen Whitmer age.
1971. She's 49.
We got to get Bob back, dude. Pretty boy Bob. Hot
It's
Bob.
right here for her on the screen. I thought
What
you
is
were
it?
going to read it off.
No, I can't say it.
She was born in 1971, so she's 49.
Fuck. Yeah, dude. Giorgio, that might be a little young for you. Give her
Those are
10
the big
years.
Titties, though.
Give her 10. I know. Look, I understand it. If you're going to bang a governor, she's on the list. If you're going to do it. Now's the time for the Drinkin Bro of the week. This is coming from Josh from California. He's been a Drinkin Bro member for 4 years. He's nominated Nate Cortez Peck and Josh Brica. That's B-R-I-C-A. I've not heard that last name before or seen it. He says he's got a double Drinkin Bro nomination. First, we got Josh, a man among men. We were new guys on our Marine Special Operations team. Together, Josh always had a positive outlook on life and had a life goal of killing bad guys and saving good guys. He was the first guy to take responsibility for his faults and the last guy to leave at the end of the day. Josh made it his goal to always surpass the example. Josh, unfortunately, was a victim of a horrible training accident during his second deployment workup. He left behind a wife, a newborn, and a band of brothers. He now resides in Sacramento, California, Memorial Cemetery. The second guy here is Nate Cortez Peck. Nate was a man of the people and took every new guy under his wing. He was a degenerate, just like the rest of us, from strip clubs to casinos. Nate was for the boys. Unfortunately, Nate was hit and killed by an unidentified trucker on his way to work. He now resides in the Arlington, Virginia Memorial Cemetery. Nate is survived by his wife, family, and band of brothers. Nate and Josh were and are the true definition of Marine Raiders. Cheers, boys. We will live on every day through your memories of your families and brothers. Never above you, never below you, always beside you. Cheers, boys. Anybody can submit to the Drinkin Bro of the week through drinkinbros.com. Feel free, man. It goes right to us, and we read them live on air. And we don't filter any of these or screen them. Whatever happens. And while you're there, we got some butter soft teas for $19.99. You want to pick up some Drinkin Bros shit. I'm a little off today. I'll admit it. I'm a little off today. Mondays for me, man, I check out during the weekend so hard, it takes me a little bit. I almost feel like I need to keep going. Going 7 days a week, as hard as it, because then it's all right, great, we're in it. Once you have that 2-day break where you're like, oh man, I'm doing nothing. I mean, I did nothing yesterday. Watch football. And,
I didn't even do that.
And hang out with my kids. That's it. I slept a big portion of yesterday.
I lie in bed from Friday when we're done until I wake up Monday to do this, aside from getting up and taking my dogs out.
I saw you had a coffee post yesterday at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I was like, is he just getting up having coffee right now?
No, I wasn't actually drinking coffee. I just wanted to intimate that I want to die. So,
The cryptic messaging was clear.
Yeah. Go to Drinkin Bros podcast on iTunes. Rate the show a 5-star and leave a quick review. That's what helps moves us up the charts, not any of the other bullshit. They don't care that we had over 10 million listeners last month. They don't give a shit about that. All they want is their review, their 5-star. Go to Drinkin Bros podcast on iTunes to do so. And then, we're going to try to upload these to Rumble and get these out to more places. The Rumble thing, by the way, is just in case YouTube decides to nuke everything, like on the right, and be like, all right, great. The videos will at least live somewhere else, and they're not censoring it or doing any of that shit on there. Like Break.com. Break.com used to do that. They used to show the craziest fucking videos back in the day. I don't know what happened to that website, but look, at least there'll be another way to get all of this shit. And again, I'm on Parler. Dan, are you ever going to join her, or are you checked out on that altogether?
I'll probably make an account just so I can peruse it, but I don't imagine I'll be putting anything on there.
What if it does pick up and it becomes like the next Twitter?
I mean, it'll just be conservative Twitter, which is...
Because you're not on real Twitter.
I have an account there, but I don't really pay much attention.
Yeah.
I mean, I look for stuff there. I look at the trends and things, but I don't really get involved too much because it's... If you look at somebody that's super active on Twitter, they probably have 50 to 150,000 individual posts just over the last couple of years.
Right.
And I don't care that much about anything to talk about it that much, to be honest.
No, I mean, like Chrissy Teigen, Jesus Christ. I feel like she's on there every 10 seconds on that. That's another one that ends up in my feed all the time that I just hate. I'm just like, God damn it, man. So I am looking for alternatives to this shit. You can follow me there at Ross Patterson on there. Hopefully it'll pick up and become cool, man. We'll see. We'll see what happens with all this shit. It takes time and money, so be patient with all of it. I'm just glad that somebody is at least trying to build an alternative to what we have now. Because, I mean, even a simple post in Drinkin Bros Sports over the weekend, which is a private group, the only rule is don't be a cunt. You can fucking join and talk shit about all the games, see all of our bets and all of that stuff. A guy posted yesterday in there of a vote for top 5 quarterbacks in the
I saw that,
the NFL, and it got flagged underneath it. It just said, vote? Oh, you must be talking about the presidential election, which has been called by the Associated Press. And it's like, dude, Facebook, this was Facebook's voting option.
Yeah.
You know, the one that they set up on their own. It's like, hey, man, it clearly has nothing to do with politics or anything else. Like, it is the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. And even that got flagged. And it's just like, dude, what are we doing anymore, man? It's fine if you have AI and want to take over the fucking world, but at least have it read shit properly. Crazy, but we will be back with you tomorrow. We got sports tomorrow and some big announcements. If she wants to shut down Michigan, then it's going to shut down basketball and all that other shit. So we'll see how this shakes out. For D'Anthony Holloway, I'm Ross Patterson. This is the Drinkin Bros podcast, everyone. Subscribe on YouTube for now to Drinkin Bros podcast, and we'll see you tomorrow afternoon. Good night, everyone.